What's up, DWA fam? This is Asia, of course, and I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about today's episode. Recently, Jared and I were interviewed on the Master It podcast hosted by Allie McGee. Allie is amazing. We met her in our podcast accelerator course that we took recently with Almost 30. And we've just kept in touch with her because she is awesome. Her podcast is awesome. All of the information about her podcast and how you can connect with her, you can find in the show notes of this episode. We just had so much fun. We wanted to share it with you all. My favorite part was when we talked about what advice we would give to our younger, early 20-year-old selves. So tune in. We can't wait for you guys to hear it, and we'll see you on the other side back in your ears next week. Hope you enjoy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Master It podcast. I'm so excited about two guests that I have on the pod today. I'm sitting down with Asia and Jared, who are the co-hosts of the Done with Adulting podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so excited to have you here and so excited to pick your brain.
How are you?
I'm good. So glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. We connected in the Almost 30 podcast accelerator course. I've made
alumni.
so many.
Shout out to the A30 alumni.
Yes, and all our virtual friends, as Chelsea would say.
So many people.
Online friends are the best.
Online friends. Yes, big time. I'm excited to chat with you guys and just kind of learn more about your podcast, how it was created. So we can just kind of jump right into it. Can you share a little bit about each other? I don't know who wants to go first. You guys can decide. And then how was Done with Adulting created and what was like the story behind that?
Ladies first. We'll let Asia go.
All right, I'll go first. So I literally, I'll just give a little background. Again, my name is Asia. Jared and I are based in the Boston area. So that is where we are coming from today and always. But how did Done with Adulting start? Oh God. Basically so Jared and I have been friends since college. We went to college together, coming up on, how many years have we known each other? 10, 11?
Crazy to think.
Yeah, very long.
We graduated a while ago, it seems.
Yeah, it's honestly like, what is time? So we met in college. We just became really close friends and always stayed friends. And it's just funny because our general friendship was like, I would always like think of weird, crazy ideas and be like, hey, Jared, do you want to start this business? Or like, hey, do you want to do this? And we never actually did anything until we did the podcast.
Yeah, this was the first one.
This is the first idea we actually...
So many ideas of like, hey, how can we get rich? How can we make adulting easier?
How can we make adulting easier? Right. So literally one random day, I was just like I texted him like, I was just going through life, right? Like we were just adulting every day. It's like stress. You work, you come home, you do whatever. Like, it's like you get into this routine. And one day I was like, I'm just so sick of this. I texted Jared. I'm like, do you want to do a podcast with me? Like, I think it should be called Done with Adulting. And if you know Jared, he literally just like will text back one word, like, yep, sounds good. Like, no, just
no,
like,
I was,
I'm down.
I had more energy for that one. I think I was like, yo, that name is so sick. We should do that for sure.
We should pull up the archives of our conversation in case we get asked this again. But, anyway, so that's how it started in September of 2019. And yeah, it's fun. We basically just talk about all things life. Adulting. Yeah, we complain, we relate, we try to educate, we talk about current events. So
yeah, we try to bring like experts on and guests who talk on certain topics like taxes, real estate, buying homes, things like that as well. So it's not all just making fun of adulting. It's actually just trying to make it easier for people as well.
Yeah, and the idea kind of started of like, you know, we're millennials and we feel like millennials get a bad rep because whatever people want to say about millennials. But that was sort of what we started. We're like, we gotta like crush some of these stereotypes about millennials. Like, we're just out here trying to survive.
Yeah. We've already been through so many traumatic experiences. We're just trying to make it through.
We're just trying to make it work. So yeah, that's kind of how we got started.
Love that. Yeah, no, I mean, I think your episodes are really tangible and practical for like that person who's in their 20s going through so many shifts and changes because like, yeah, college is great. Go and get that education and things like that. But like the moment you graduate and you step out into the real world, it's like, whoa, what the hell just hit me like a bus?
You're by yourself.
Yeah, it's lonely. Like no one tells you how to do taxes. No one tells you how to do anything. Like
anything.
It's
like I just went to school for literally 20 years, 22 years, and I don't know how to do anything. Like the concept of that to me to this day is still like crazy that happens.
And that's the thing about adulting. I feel like it's just you're forever learning.
Yeah.
Like growing up, I always thought my parents and all the adults knew exactly what they were doing. And then as you get older, you realize like that's not the case at all.
It's so crazy.
Yes, for real. Forever on that journey to continue learning, which is, I think I thought that too of like, oh, like they know everything. Like I always thought, I was like, my mom knows everything.
She has all the answers.
Legit.
All of them locked up somewhere in her mind.
I think that.
Like, I look back at times when I knew I was in the wrong and I made my mom probably feel so bad. And looking back at that now, I'm like, I was terrible for that.
I know, I'm like cringing on the inside of like, no, I'm right.
I'm like, she was just adulting, trying to make sure that I was good. And I was just being a little brat or doing whatever I was doing. I was like, I'm totally wrong for that. And now I understand her pain.
Looking back on it, wait, maybe we should jump into what did your early 20s look like compared to where you're at now? And what advice would you give to your early 20s self?
Wow, that's a crazy question. You can
go first, Jared.
That's a crazy question. Well, early 20s. Well, to me, I feel like it's different now because where I'm at right now, I mean, like we've been in a year and some change of a pandemic. So like maybe if we were outside and living life regularly, things would be a little bit different, but I don't know. But early 20s, I don't think I had as many responsibilities as I have right now, obviously. So you're more worried about just going to work, coming back, doing whatever you like to do, and then basically partying. So obviously that's definitely changed from the early 20s to the late 20s. And just trying to, I guess, handle those responsibilities, really.
I think for me, like, it's just crazy when I think so much about that time in my life and what I was doing. Like today, I'll like go through a whole day of just like adulting. And at the end of the day, be like, what the hell just happened? Like, I don't even remember what I did today. And so like, when I was 22 or 21, it was like, what was I doing? Like, how could I party? Like, I feel like I have no money right now because I have to pay all my bills. But like back then I was going out every single weekend and I literally only had like a part-time job that paid me like $13 an hour. Like and
you were having the time of your life.
I would have time. And it's so confusing to me because I'm like, did I have, I didn't even have a credit card. Like, what was I doing? I guess my parents were funding my lifestyle, but I don't know. It's just weird to think about. I think like, especially now, the main difference, like Jared said, is just the responsibilities of it. And I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to my younger self is like, I feel like when we leave college or even if you get your master's, like whatever, because I went straight from undergrad to master's, which like I would not recommend doing, but
take a break in between.
Yeah. Or like, why do you even need your master's? There's so many other ways that you can be successful. That's like where I am now. That's how extreme we're on the other side.
Yes.
But when I was younger, it was like, go to school, go get my master's, find a job. And like, that was the end all be all. And now I just feel like really grateful that, you know, I guess I'm just like awakened to the fact that that's not the end all be all. And like, it's okay to have a job that doesn't necessarily relate to what you went to school for. And like, it's okay to be creative. Like, I feel like that piece of who we are, especially as podcasters and like nurturing that creativity as an adult, I just feel like people don't do that enough. Like we get stuck in our routines of just going to work. Yeah. And I feel like the podcast especially has been a creative outlet for us that, you know, sometimes is like the escape from adulting, you know? So
it's funny because every time we hop on at the end of it, we're like, yeah, that felt like therapy.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
We're like, So yeah, that's, I would say that's one thing, but I mean, there's a million. We could go through every aspect of our lives and talk about how different it is.
Yeah, and I never really gave a piece of advice at the end of your question. I just totally skipped that. But I would tell my younger self, just do what you want to do.
Mm.
Do what you want to do. Whatever makes you happy, make sure you do that and stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really great piece of advice, because I think far too often do we feel like we have to get stuck in like finding the job that was in our, degree program, whatever, or, we get this job after college and like we have to be stuck in it. And there's no like wiggle room almost to like, oh, like, let me try this new path. Let me try this different field. Like there's so many options to arrive at success, which that means something different to everyone. So I think like sometimes all of this formalized schooling just gets us in this really narrow path of like, we have
everybody thinking the same.
Yeah. It's like boom, boom, boom. And, I kind of did the same thing. I graduated from my undergrad a year early. So I was super young, went right into my master's because I felt like that's what you had to do to be successful. And like, yeah, it's great to have like in your tool belt and like that you did it, but am I using it right now? Like, no. And it's been like 4 years, like Same. It's collecting dust on the shelf over there.
Yeah. And I think too, like what you said about this formalized like school, it's like even beyond that is like, we are just obviously like programmed and by by our society, by our families, like you're on this path of undergrad and masters, and like kids who aren't on that path, like at least when I was that age, felt like less than if they didn't choose that path. And it's like the moment that you even like maybe thought about changing your path or thought about the fact that you didn't want to do that or didn't want to get a corporate job, it was like everybody around you in your life was like, hold up, you're going to literally sink to the bottom of the barrel. Like you know what I mean? It's like so dramatic. It's like the moment you say you don't want to like work for corporate, it is like the most dramatic thing ever. So it's hard. I feel like it's hard for young people to have their own opinions and branch out and do what they want to do when everyone around them, like we're older now. So now my attitude,
we're the millennials. So it's not really like that, but the generation underneath us, is it Gen Z?
Yeah.
They're doing that. I feel like
they are.
Yeah.
And I just think now that we're older, we don't care about like, at least I don't necessarily care what other people think. Like I'm going to do what I want to do. But when you're that age, like you do care what other people think. You're like, so I don't know. I think that's a huge part of it too. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point of, because even when I went into my undergrad as a pre-nursing major, clearly I'm not a nurse, so like something had to change. But it was the school I went to, literally all of the girls, you ask them what their nursing or their major is, pre-nursing. Everyone wants to walk around in their purple scrubs and like, it's like this, you're part of the community when you are that major, when you are going into that program, XYZ. So the moment I realized, I was like, oh, this isn't for me. And I went and changed my major to healthcare administration. First of all, I was crying my eyes out because I was like, stay dramatic, just a little. But I felt bad because I didn't like what everyone else liked. Like, I like learning about learning about the business side versus like the blood and guts and like dissecting things. Like that's just not my jam. And it's crazy because once I stepped out and stepped into my authentic self almost, the work came so easy. Like I would wait till Sunday evening to write all of my papers because like I could knock them out in like 4 hours, versus like something that's misaligned. Like I would have to study for hours and hours and hours on end. But long story short,
something you enjoyed.
Yeah. So it was something I enjoyed. And I think, it was hard to like step away or like be different. But now I think as you grow older, you care less about what other people think of you. And it's more about your own happiness.
For sure. I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
For the goal of life, be happy.
Yeah. Did you, at any point in your like early like 20s, did you care what other people thought about you? Was that ever something that was like really hard for you?
Yeah. I don't think it was really hard for me, but I definitely always thought that or cared what others thought of me. And a lot of the things that I did was to make sure that those people felt a certain way. But like you said, as you grow older, you realize that none of that really matters. And the way, that doesn't really affect your life, or it shouldn't. So you go and just do what you want to do.
Yeah, I think all of us go through that. And I think obviously there are even people at our age that still go through it. Like, I think it's a process, but
even older. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, even though I feel like I've come out on the other side and I really don't care what people think at this point, you still get moments, like you get moments before you like post something or before you say something that you're like, should I say this? Or like, and I don't know. I just think it's unfortunate because we have created that society of like judgment and wanting to care what other people think. It's like, I don't really know what the fix to that is, besides like obviously raising the next generation to be like, F it all. I don't know. Can we swear on your podcast?
Of course.
Sorry.
It's encouraged.
Okay. Fuck it all.
Asia curses a lot on ours. So.
Well, I love it. I'm here for it.
I have no filter. So yeah, I don't know.
But to that, I think if you're like, once you're like secure in yourself, you're not really worried about what other individuals are thinking about you. And I think that comes with experience and growth and learning. So you really don't hit that stage until you're at a certain age and you're a little bit older, and you realize like, I'm actually really secure with myself. So no matter what any other individual thinks, like, I'll be cool. I'll be fine.
And I think to your point, Allie, security in yourself comes with like alignment, that you're confident in what you're doing. Like, if you're doing something you're not confident in, of course you're going to be insecure. Versus like, if you're doing something you are confident in, you might like, you don't care what other people think. You're doing the right thing.
You know, you're killing it.
Yeah. So
yes,
mastering it.
Yes. Ooh, love it. Really tie the bow on that. You guys, I have been obsessing over this new product that I found. It's called granola butter, and it literally tastes like liquid Teddy Grahams. So freaking yummy, and it goes well with literally anything. Spread it on toast, mix it in oatmeal, whatever you want to put it on, it probably pairs well with it. Granola butter is the world's first spreadable granola, created by the one and only Allie Bonner, who was actually on the podcast a few weeks back. She had an incredible episode talking about body image and disordered eating and how she was able to overcome all of that. I'm so excited because I think everyone should try granola butter. It's so yummy, and I'm sure you will be hooked just like I am. So you can shop now with the link in the show notes to get your granola butter today. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Let me know when you order it and you get it and you try it so we can just geek out over it together. All right, link in bio to shop Kween & Co. granola butter today. That kind of leads me into my next question. So as you kind of evolve from being, more insecure to really standing in your power, feeling secure, I feel like the people around you, your groups change, your friends change. There's a lot of change just with like your social situation. At least that was my experience. Did that happen for you guys? How did you deal with that? What did that look like? Spill the beans.
Oh, I think I'm still dealing with this.
I think it's kind of ever evolving,
Yeah. I'm interested to hear Jared's response to this because I feel like he pretty much has the same ride or dies.
I was about to ask you, what do you think my answer would be?
I think Jared is, I don't know. I think the bonds and forms that he has with friends from pre-college and the friends from college that I know are just so strong, like on a deeper level, like they went through stuff that is going to keep them close forever. I also, don't kill me for saying this, but I do think it's different between males and females.
I was going to say
I was just thinking that.
Okay.
Glad we're all thinking it. You just said it, so I'm glad. All right, that's on Asia though.
So I think that's a part of it. But I don't know. What do you think, Jared?
I was going to say, like, I was feeling that and I was going to say that, but I was like, let me not say that being the only male on here right now. And then I come across a certain way. But yeah, I think that might just be a lady thing. Because like Asia said, to me, I think me and my people that I grew up with from before high school to the friends that I made in college, no matter like how we've changed personally, we've always stayed strong and we've always stayed really good friends. So, but I do see that happen a lot more or the opposite happen a lot more with women friend groups. So when Asia started talking that, I was like, that's her and her friends. And I'm like,
well, I just think, and here's the thing. It's like the friends that I made, Jared and I both played sports in college. So you have a team, right? And he played football, I played basketball. So my team is 12 people and we're all really close and are still close to a degree. With Jared, obviously football has 100 people on the team. Yeah. So you get close with like a select few, maybe your roommates, whatever, but you're still cool with everybody, I'm sure. And I just feel like in my life right now and like the season I'm going through, it's not that I don't want to be friends with my old friends or anything like that. It's just like, you know what I always think about? I don't know if this is going to sound crazy, but this is the way that it like makes sense in my mind. If you think about like your parents and like the friends that your parents have, and you're just like my mom has like 2 really good friends from college, but really like one is they're closer than the 3.
That's the ride or die.
That's the ride or die. She has no high school friends that she talks to. There was one that I remember seeing when I was a kid, but like we haven't seen her in like years. And then like the friends that she has now are kind of like the parents of my friends from just traveling and basketball and stuff. So when you think about it like that, to say like, I'm sure she had plenty of friends in college and plenty of friends in high school. And it's not that she didn't want to be friends with them, but like life happens and seasons change and people move and you get busy and whatever, like you're adulting, you're so busy adulting that the people that, you know, my basketball team who I wouldn't go freaking 12 hours without speaking to, like we'll go months.
Spreading apart a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, and it's, and at also, first,
sorry to cut you off, but that's also, I think, another thing between men and women. Like me and my friends from back home, we can go like months without talking, and then we could just snap back like that and be right back like where we left off at. But I feel like with women, if you don't hear from them for a while, it's like no more friendship.
It's not even that. I think I have friends who I don't talk to for months and we can pick up where we left off. No, I get what you're saying though, because I think that's true. What I think really is the main difference between men and women and when it comes to just like maintaining friendships is, unfortunately, like I wish it wasn't this way, but unfortunately I do think women we're more just like insecure about things. And so like, and also we're more like if my best friend, and I don't know, Jared, you can tell me if this is opposite, but if I say I'm going to do something crazy, I don't know, start a podcast, start a business, whatever. If I say I'm going to do something and my friend or like someone I consider to be close to me, like doesn't agree, like they're going to tell me they don't agree, which like plays into this whole thing of like trying to please people, right? As opposed to them just being like, oh, okay, cool. Like, good luck with that. I feel like guys are more like that, where females will be like, oh, I don't know, should you do that? Because we're like projecting.
Yeah.
And then you get like upset with your friend because you're like, do you not support me? And then it turns into like a thing. And it's like,
and then all of a sudden and then you're fighting about the outfit and it's not about the outfit. And it's just
like crazy.
I'm like, it's a lot. I feel like men are very just like transparent and just like, they say it how it is. And then women are just very like multi-layered and very like 3-dimensional, where we have to, I totally get what you're saying because I totally feel it.
Yeah. You don't want to say it the wrong way, but it's there for sure. And I just think ultimately as you go through life, like other priorities come up and like, that's just the chips fall where they may, and you look up and you're 40 and maybe you have like 2 or 3 close friends and like that's how it is. I don't know. It's weird.
And I also think it depends on like not only the age, but like what stages in life you are. So like saying if all your friends are single and then you end up getting married and then now it's just you married with a bunch of single friends, like that dynamic could change. Or even friend groups with like who have kids and don't. Like you're busy on the weekends with your kids. You're going to meet other parents and things like that. So you're not really able to go out and party or go out and hang out with the guys or with the gals, anything like that. So I think that also could put a fray on a relationship, and we're still going through that.
For sure.
So we'll see how that changes our relationship with our certain friends in the future.
Yeah, I also think this is the last thing I'll say, but But I think we also, as we're getting older, which I didn't think this was going to happen. Like when I was my younger self, I was like, oh, no new friends. I've got my people.
Yeah.
I ain't trying to meet anybody new. I was like, I'm all set. Like none.
I'm kind of still on that page though, but we'll let you go. We'll go back to it.
Well, I think you're getting better, Jared. I'll cut you some slack there. But like now, I'm like, pod accelerator class and I do network marketing. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's exciting to meet new people, and it's exciting to meet new people who have the same interests as you. And it's like no knock to any of my old teammates that I've ever had in my life. But at that time, that was our common interest, was the sport that we were playing. Now my common interest is like podcasting or like whatever. And that's not their common interest, which is fine. But I would just encourage people to like not be afraid of branching out and making new friends. And they don't even have to be friends. It can just be communities. It can be networks. It can be whatever it has to be to
associates, anything. Yeah.
Yeah. To feel like you're in this with somebody, because if you are, we'll use podcasting as an example. If you're a podcaster and none of your friends podcast and no one around you is a podcaster, you're going to like probably lose your freaking mind. Like Jared and I have each other to be like, what the F are we, like, why are we doing this? But like, if you're alone, it's like, it's hard. It's hard to want to continue going on without having people surrounding you that are on the same path, if that makes sense. So I don't know.
Totally.
It's complicated.
Yeah. And I was just thinking while you brought that up, I've met people at different seasons of my life. So like the season when I'm going to the club every single weekend, and like all I have in common with these people is like we go out and drink a ton and then like get drunchies and like it's a night and like that's our thing. But now that drunk munchies. Come on.
I've never heard that in my life. I thought that was like some restaurant in Arizona or something.
It's Arizona local. It's only out here.
I'm like, what is that? I like that though. Sorry, I just totally.
No, you're good. You're
That's
good.
hysterical.
Yeah, that's so funny. So I feel like I've met people in different seasons of my life. So it's like now that I don't drink and it's like no one goes out, like you kind of lose interest in like communication with those people because like what do you have in common besides just like getting fucked up like on the weekends? Like not much. And like now that I want to like just grow my business and a podcast and other things, it's like I feel like naturally gravitate towards other people who have like-minded, goals in mind, so that, and it just makes it easier. You don't feel like you're there, you're physically there, but like your mind is like elsewhere.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. You guys bring up some great points.
Yeah. To your point of like no new friends, like just thinking of that now, like it just sounds so stupid because like why would you cut yourself off to
at 23?
To certain people who you don't even know who they know. You don't know what type of connections they have or what connections you can make with them, or even just what you can learn from them. So like just looking back on even that saying itself and us like shouting that out and actually putting that as like Instagram captions and whatnot, it's like, come on, bro.
Nonsense.
You look back and it's like very cringeworthy.
I'm ridiculous. Yeah, no, it's cringeworthy.
I feel like that song's not that old. Like when did it come out? Like
right?
16?
Yeah, it was like not that long ago.
And I feel like maybe now that we've grown up, you realize how much of the real world is creating connections. Like how many jobs have we gotten just from someone like, yeah. So it's it's a little wild. Oh, this is a good one. And maybe more of a personal question for myself. How have boundaries changed from like your early 20s to where you're at now? Do you have them? Were they present in your early 20s? I didn't know what those were. And now I'm starting to create or find a healthy balance of boundaries.
I would say that's the path I'm on. I didn't even know boundaries could exist. Now I'm in the process, like you, Allie, of setting boundaries for myself. And I don't know, Jared's going to laugh. I don't know if this is like, I mean, I'm sure other families are like this too, but I feel like Black families specifically, there are less boundaries in general. There are no boundaries. And I don't know. I don't know.
When I saw the question, I was like, wow, I've never even thought about that. I'm like, boundaries.
Boundaries.
I guess like like as you grow older, you start learning more about them and then setting them. But when I was younger, I don't think I set any. I don't even think I have any set right now, honestly, to tell you the truth. But
I think it's the first, for me, the first step is like identifying where I need my boundaries. And that is something that's like a deeper learning process. It's like,
gotta look deep inside.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm just like pissed off for no reason, just walking around pissed. Nothing happened to me. I'm just annoyed. And I'm like, okay, what is going on? Like, can I get to the bottom of this so that I can like either prevent it, set a boundary? Like, did somebody like, maybe the boundary is don't talk to me before 9 a.m. I don't know. That's could be a boundary that I need. Like, I don't know what it is, but
I need that Monday through Friday.
Yeah, I feel like now, like I'm just coming around to this idea of boundaries and what they can do. And it's like a little scary because you don't want, I mean, if I literally walked out downstairs and said to my mom, like, I need to set some boundaries with you, like,
it's going to be a different conversation.
Like, okay. She'd literally laugh in my face, like, what are you talking about? Like, so it's not something we were taught. It was not something we were taught about. But I do think they're important. I just think for both of us, we are just like cracking the surface of that.
I'm still learning, still trying to figure them out.
But I definitely I'm feeling like I need some. I feel it for sure. Like, I'm like, okay, this dynamic is not working. So we gotta switch it up.
What about you? Do you have any boundaries set that come to mind?
Yeah, can you teach us like a thing or two about setting boundaries?
Let us know. Have you had these when you were younger as well?
No, I feel like I didn't have any. I'm a massive people pleaser. Like literally my back is always hurting. I've been bending over for 25 years.
I've been bending over.
Like it's nuts. Like if someone asked me to do something, it was always a yes for me. You know, because I felt like if I said no, someone wouldn't like me. It's all this like weird. Yeah. It's all this.
Back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And so I really just have to start saying no to more things. So if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So that's been one that I've like because if I'm not super pumped or super excited about it, like.
Why even put my energy towards that?
Yeah, I'm going to commit to it and then just be like dragging my feet through the mud the entire time and knowing like I'm going to half-ass the effort and then it's going to look bad on me and like I'm going to feel bad afterwards because I didn't give this person my full like time, energy, or effort. So that's been a really big one. I feel like it's kind of lame, but for me, setting sleep boundaries has been huge.
Yes.
Like,
as in I'm going to
do that.
Time and no negotiation.
Yeah. So like I set one, like I like to be in bed by 9 and asleep by 10. Ooh, so that was, I learned that from one of my health coaches, but it gives me like just something to look forward to. And like, otherwise I'd stay up and work all night and think, in air quotes, think that I could function off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep when I know like I can't do that. I can't be my most creative self, my best self, whatever.
If you're tired.
No sleep. And then I'm just slamming coffee all day. Like that's just not the vibe. It's not good for anyone. Not good for me and especially not good for anyone in my way. Yeah. So I think those are just a few that I've been learning. I'm definitely still in the learning process because I still find myself committing to too much stuff right now. Like right now, working a full-time job, going to yoga teacher training at night, podcasting, doing health coaching on the side, training for a triathlon. Like my plate is too fucking full. Like something's got to give, you know, otherwise it's like, who gives? It's me. And I'm like, yeah. And I just like can't show up how I want to for each of these things.
Yeah. You spread yourself too thin.
Yeah. And like no one, like that's not good. Like no one likes that. Like I always just think of a PB&J sandwich. Like you want a lot of peanut butter, you want a lot of jelly. Like we don't want like just like the little smear of it. Like no, like that's not the vibe.
That's a good analogy.
It's a great one.
Oh, this is you just gave us an idea for something to talk about because look, this is definitely something that's a learning process. And you'll find, if anybody listens to our podcast, that very much 99% of the time, we're not like trying to, we're like going through these things with y'all.
We're not telling you to do what we're doing. We're not experts on it.
Yeah, we're like, we're the farthest people from experts. We're just going through this and like assume everyone else is too. So
don't get your facts from us.
Yeah, that's like our motto. Can
Do
you
not get
believe
your
that?
facts from us.
Don't get your facts from here. Like,
It feels like that should be on some merch next.
Yeah, she's coming with the gems. A lot of
Come on,
a lot of
Allie.
ideas. Let me write that down.
Please write some things down, Jared. Write down the slogan for the merch and the back. Great. I love this.
No, but I think that's great because I think a lot of people think that these people like podcasters, or if you're doing a bunch of business on social media, like they feel like they are these perfect beings, but it's like, no, like we're going through the shit in the trenches with you. Like we're right alongside.
Mhm.
And so like, let's do this together versus like feeling like we're so alone in the path. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think sometimes it looks like we're all like zipped up and perfect and like got all the things done. And it's like, no, like
It's all a show.
oh, it's all a
All
show.
a
Like
show.
people only post their highlight reels, right?
Yeah.
It's all
Never
a
the
show.
L's. Never the
Never.
lessons that they learned.
Yeah, never.
That's
ever.
what I feel like is one thing that when we were growing up is so different from like people growing up now and like in their 20s now. It's everything is so social media focused. Whereas like when we were in college, there was social media, but it wasn't in your face the way it is now.
Yeah, it wasn't number one.
Yeah. I always make the joke that I arrived at college with a BlackBerry. So that is like, yeah. I'm like, anyways, the point is, I just feel like it's going to be so different for younger kids to get to this idea of like not caring what other people think about you because they've
They're all on social media. Their whole life,
even like kids, like I'm talking about children who are like on tablets all the time or on TikTok. It's like they're going to grow up seeing highlight reels and like comparing themselves to highlight reels. It's like scary.
5 years ago, when I first started taking yoga classes, I had no freaking clue what equipment I would need for class. I found a studio that had this rockin' deal that if you bought one of their in-house mats, you got 2 weeks free of yoga. Obviously, I immediately jumped on this deal. After taking a few classes with my new and very cheap mat, I knew there had to be a better option. I was sliding around, couldn't keep my hands or feet in one spot, and I felt that I wasn't getting the most from each class simply because I was worried about falling over or sliding off the mat. I knew I had to level up my mat to get the most from class. And after shopping around from several different big name brands, I found that if you wanted a high quality mat, it came with a high price tag. My stomach would literally churn every time I looked at the price tag. And after finally investing in a mat, my experience in class was truly transformed. I was able to drop in deeper to each pose and get more from each class. It was life-changing. My next thought was to question why the price of these mats were so high. Getting the most magical experience from yoga truly had a high financial barrier around it. This sparked my interest to create a mat that had equal quality but was available at a much more reasonable price point. Cue the product development phase for Life Simplified yoga mats. The journey was long and tedious. There were lots of trial and error when working with manufacturers just to get the right mat that I was looking for. And finally, after months of testing different mats, I finally found the mat that I was longing for. It was thick for the ultimate joint support and cushion, grippy to help you hold each pose without the slip factor crossing your mind, and big enough for you to stretch out in Savasana. And boom, the Life Simplified Crystals collection was born. A mat that's got the same quality as big name brands like Lululemon, Alo Yoga, and Nike without the big price tag. With 4 beautiful colors available, they are all named after magical crystals due to their healing power, so there's truly one for every mood. My personal favorite is the amethyst mat. It's this gorgeous purple and always helps me transcend and transform while I'm practicing on this mat. It's magical to say the least. Shop Life Simplified yoga mats now at lifesimplified.shop and use the code podcast for 15% off your order. Once again, shop Life Simplified yoga mats at lifesimplified.shop and use the code PODCAST, PODCAST, for 15% off your order. The link is in the show notes. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes me nervous for like the future parent in me, like raising my own kids and like, whoa, when do you introduce the phone? When, like, how do you deal with all these things? Because it's like they go to school, they have interactions, but like probably on their phone all day because like that's what I was doing.
My niece is like 8. She just turned 8 and she already has a phone and she's texting me. And I'm like, how are you doing this already? I'm like, I need to talk to your mom. Like,
yeah, I have a 10-year-old niece.
Texting.
Yeah, my niece texts too. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
the parenting thing is like a whole nother realm of adulting that I can't even like think about. But thank God, our friend Jared here, he's going to take it on first for us and give us all the tips.
And that's just going to be a whole nother like just learning experience that I have zero idea what I'm doing.
Zero idea.
I was at we were at a friend's house earlier today, me and my wife, and they were just talking about like everything you need to put on a registry, and like me and her look at each other and we're like, oh, we don't know what you really need to put on this thing. Like I was like, I never had a baby before. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what all the babies need.
For real. And then it's like this overwhelming. There's so much stuff, and everyone's like, you have to get this thing, and it's like all of a sudden your list of things is like 200 long, and I'm like,
for me, doubling on top of each other.
Yeah, for real. Like, I mean, you guys have both had weddings. I'm sure is kind of similar in that way of like, oh, you have to do these things and register for these things, or even like plan a wedding. I'm like, that seems overwhelming, anxiety filled for me.
Literally.
But I feel like if you could do that, like you can raise a kid for sure.
I hope so. I hope
hilarious.
so. No, like, I think trying to keep another human being breathing, like that's just so scary to me.
Good luck. Yeah. You can do it. I have the utmost faith in you.
Yeah. I'm glad you're dipping your toes in the water first.
Oh, Jesus.
We'll take notes.
Yeah. I'll report back. Yeah. I'll report back in a few months or actually a few years, see how we're doing.
I love that. So you guys both mentioned that you're raised with Black parents in a Black household. How has it, and how have these issues that we've kind of talked about throughout this whole podcast been heightened just because you have been Black? What did that look like? Because here I'm a white female who hasn't had to go through like very privileged life. I haven't had to experience anything close to maybe what you have. What did that kind of look like for you guys?
Well, I'll say probably the first thing for me is that from what we spoke about earlier is like worrying about what other people think of you. I feel like growing up Black, at a certain age, you have the Black talk. So you already know that you're being looked at a certain way, no matter what you do or like what type of experience you have with an individual. They're still looking at you a certain type of way. So that's, to me, the biggest first thing that I've seen of growing up Black with what we spoke about.
Yeah. And I think the best way to describe it, and I read this in a book recently and I was like, I'm going to use this, but the best way to describe it is like, if you're anything in this country but white, like it's as if you're playing the same game, but you're not playing on the same board.
Yeah, you're a little behind.
It's not even behind. It's like maybe your board is like a nice flat thing. And like our board is like all these fucking obstacles and shit like that. That is normal for us because we grew up with it and we're used to it, but it still definitely weighs on you, especially as an adult. Like I think what Jared's saying in terms of having that talk when you're younger about like what it means to be Black and how to carry yourself, that gets instilled at a young age, but it's not really until you become an adult that you're like, I mean, as a kid, you're like, okay, I get it. You might see some things or experience some things, but you're still a kid. You still have that innocence to a certain point. And once you start going to college, and even now, it's like you just become so much more aware and
all things, surroundings,
everything, it's
interactions, like, just like this little subtle thing, certain microaggressions.
And it's like, this is a really good example too. Like, I cannot make this up, but my husband and I are trying to buy a house this year, which is seemingly impossible because the market is terrible. But literally, like when I talk about this with our family, my aunts and uncles who are like older generation, but still applies, they're like, their literal piece of advice is like to take down like pictures of you or like pictures of your Black family when your house that, you know, like when you're trying to sell your house or when you're trying to like get it appraised and like things like that, you know, as an adult, if you're selling your home to move to another home, like that's already a very stressful, complicated process. And now like I have to worry about like what pictures I have to take off the wall because I think they're going to give me a lesser value if they
I have
see
to do
Black.
that while Black.
Yeah, it's just like everything is heightened and like on 10 and you just have to be sharper. Like I feel like there's really no room for error sometimes and it's a hard
kind of feel
thing
like you have to be perfect.
Yeah, it's a hard I'm not going to be like it's so hard like we're used to it. It's like and I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like I'd rather be Black than anything else, but
I feel like it makes you stronger as well.
Yeah, it does. For
just growing up differently, just seeing different things, being put through different things, it makes you grow stronger.
And work harder because you know that you have to work 3 times harder than a white person that's your equal to have the same privilege. So you automatically work 3 times harder at everything because you're like, you have to.
And also, like this is just another aspect of it, like adulting and at least in the Black community, I feel like a lot of people who might feel successful or think they made it just by working like a regular full-time job, earning a regular normal salary. Let's say they finally hit 100 or 6 figures, like them hitting 6 figures versus another community hitting 6 figures, not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think within the Black community, a lot of people, once they get to that level, they feel that now they have to start giving back to their family and try to bring their family up where other communities, they've had that already generationally.
Yeah.
So
it's
just like little things like that. Like when Black people make it, a lot of them are also giving back to their community and to their family. So it's not even really like they totally made it.
Yeah. It's like the opposite. It's like white families might have like they have generational wealth. So they're able to give their kid a leg up where it's like Black, like if Jared and I ever make it, like both of our moms are like, when are you going to buy me a house? Like, are you going to put me in my house for my, like at least that's what my mom said.
That's like a goal for me. Yeah. Like that's one of my goals in life is to buy my mom a house. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why is that a goal? Like, because I mean, it's crazy. I don't know.
So,
but not even, I don't even want to say generational wealth, just like, cause there's plenty of like white families and communities that aren't wealthy. They're not massively rich or anything like that, but like they're just normal. They're like upper middle class. And I feel like Black people or Black communities who are in middle class, they're like all lower middle class. They're kind of struggling in the middle class.
Yeah.
If they're making a certain salary, that salary isn't the same as a person in another community making that same salary. Just in my eyes, I don't know.
And then of course there's like the fear of like police and the general fear that myself or Jared might have just leaving the house to adults every day is like it's an everyday thing. And it's like, it's so weird. It's hard to explain, obviously, unless you experience it, but it's like, it plays on a loop in the back of your mind so many times a day that you don't really know it's there.
Yeah, it's automatic.
Yeah. But you know it's there because right when you go to reach for the door, you're like, let me check to see if I have, like, do I have my phone? Let me take this hat off. Let me leave this. Like, do I have my ID?
Yeah, like,
and so it's just like, it's things like that. We're not going to obviously crack all the differences of our perspective versus everyone else's, but it's definitely different.
I'm gonna give you a specific example. Like we've actually spoke about this on our podcast. Like in my neighborhood, every single day, if I wanted to, well, this was back in the summer, like when the weather's nice. It's not Arizona, so it's not always sunny and nice and warm. But whenever I just want to go outside for a run, like certain events or certain images flash through my mind. Like, what do I need to do if this happens? What if this happens? like even running at night, like in my neighborhood, I would never want to run at night, just because of what possibly could happen. And to me, that's kind of crazy. Like there's plenty of times I might be bored, I might be training for something, I want to just go out, like I'm feeling it, I'm feeling amped, I want to go out and do it. Then I look outside, I'm like, oh no, it's dark, I'm not doing that.
Or it's getting dark. I'll only have 20
Oh,
minutes
yeah.
before the sun sets. Stay
You
home.
never know. I might be super gassed. I might slow up. I might be still out there in the dark running. And
yeah, it's a no for me.
Yeah. And you saw that happen first thing with Ahmaud Arbery in Georgia. That easily could have been me. I know that easily could be some of my friends. So
it's
just like everything you
scary.
do, it just flashes through your mind.
Wow. Yeah. I think the first time I was introduced to seeing things from another perspective, I read this book. It's called Friday Black. It's really, really good. But in the book, they talk about having to dial up or dial down their blackness. And it was like,
that's also, it's also a fact.
Yeah. And I was just like, I never have to worry about doing that with my whiteness. Like I can just be and show up who I am. And it's like, never a second thing that crosses my mind. So that was the first time I was introduced to that, and just like realizing, whoa, like so many people have to just figure out and like adjust themselves before they even step in a room.
Yeah.
So it's
actually the term that's mostly used is like code switching, like, and it's a term that is used. I mean, I think other people know it, but it's definitely used in the Black community. This idea of like having to switch up either the way you talk or how you say things or who you are in a certain setting, and then being able to like seamlessly go back to your natural state. Like, and that happens all the time. Like
every day at work.
If you could hear, not even on the podcast, because sometimes Jared and I have conversations that aren't recorded that are just crazy. And if you could hear the way we talk to each other in those settings, and I would even say we're pretty casual right now, but compared to like how we have to talk at work, total code switch. I could never speak at work, like even in this way, I feel like sometimes. So
you would just never feel comfortable enough to do that.
All the time. I feel like I'm code switching all the freaking time. If I walk into a store and like all the cashiers are just like are white people, or like, I don't know.
You're the
if
only
I'm
black person in the place.
If I'm uncomfortable, it's like bing. It's like it's the subconscious. Like it doesn't even. I don't even know I'm doing it. It's just a code switch and
survival.
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, all the time. That's a really great point. And it's a huge part of adulting for us, especially, which is crazy. Yeah. Write that down, Jared.
What code? We already talked about code switching.
Not a lot. Just write it down. I don't want to forget it.
Yeah, and it seems like that's obviously draining. That that takes energy to adjust. Like I'm sure by now, which is terrible to say, but you're kind of used to it. Like you said, you don't even think twice about it. It just like kind of happens like subconsciously. At one point, I'm sure you had to, really be like not assertive, but like aware of like what you were doing and what you're saying. And I'm sure at some points in different situations, you still have to be like that. Like that's just, I don't know. I have no words for it. It shouldn't be like that.
And just like what you were just saying about us just being used to it. Like I'm gonna take it a step further. Even just like seeing Black people being shot on TV by gang violence or even by police, things like that. Like we're numb to it at a certain point. Like now it's just like, okay, that's normal. But like for other people, that's super trauma. Seeing somebody just get shot for doing nothing wrong, who looks like you, it's just like now we're just desensitized to it and it's numb to us. But if you actually think about that, that's like a terrible thing to be at. That's a terrible stage in life to be at. Where that's just normal. And it's just like every day. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. It's weird that you talked about that in terms of energy, Allie, because I only in my late 20s have started to try to be more conscious about my energy and like what energy I'm putting out and what types of things like shift my energy, to just try to be more aware in general of my emotions. And I never like thought about something like code switching to be draining. Even if it is subconscious, it's still definitely draining. And it's funny because I wonder sometimes why, like at the end of the workday, I mean, we're all freaking tired at the end of the workday. We all put on like our work hats, no matter what race we are. But I get like, it's funny to think about at the end of the workday, me just like, I don't even want to talk. Like, I don't even want to speak. Like,
shut the mind down.
I can't speak. Like, I cannot say another word because all day I've just been like speaking in this code switch setting. And so like for literally like an hour and a half after I get done with work, like I can't talk to anybody. I just need to be like super internal because it's so draining.
You got to get your mental back to your normal self.
Crazy. So
yeah, wow, it's powerful.
Every aspect of life, basically.
Yeah, which is crazy because like I'm definitely drained after my workday, you know, because I have to like zip up my cursing and like reel it in for that stuff. But I don't have to change so much about me. Like I can just kind of show up and like, you know, it's not that much of a difference where I feel is yours is more extreme. And so with the extreme like sways, kind of like, not like mood swings, but like that's very exhausting. Like I can see why you have to take time for yourself to like get yourself right afterwards. Otherwise it's, you know, I feel like the people in your household might take, you know, the short end of the stick if you don't do these things. Yeah,
they fully take it. And that's why it's so important. Now we're on our soapbox, but that's why it's so important to like talk about diversity and equity and inclusion within the workplace, because in theory, if every workplace is diverse and if every workplace is inclusive and if every workplace practices equity, do I have to code switch?
You would feel comfortable enough to be yourself.
And then like, oh, I'm not as drained out. Like I'm a better worker because I can just be myself. If my workplace is more diverse, there's more people who look like me. So maybe like, you know, it's a whole, it all ties into each other, which is crazy. Like, I don't know to think about that in that big picture, but it really does all tie into each other. And we're so far off from where we need to be. I just hope like by the time my kids go to work, they can be normal, but we'll see. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens.
It's crazy because I feel like our parents probably said the same thing.
Yeah.
We're going to be saying that for a while.
Yeah.
Generation after generation, who knows?
I hope it does take a new shift. And I feel like our generation has been doing, you know, making changes to create more diversity and speaking on these topics, especially with, you know, back to the social media thing, like as much as we have a love-hate relationship with it, I think it does serve a really good platform to speak out on these things, to educate, to, you know, create and move the needle forward. Because I obviously don't agree with where we're at. It's not where we should be, but I think we've got to continue doing more work and learning. And there's so much that we have to do. It can be overwhelming to just think about everything. But if we do like the small things day in and day out, like eventually we can arrive there. I don't think it's out of the question. So yeah, I think we can get there. I think it will be.
It's a slow process.
Yeah.
That's something Obama used to say. He had like a saying. It was like what was it? It's something about the hands of justice move. I don't know. There's some quote. I should have been more prepared.
Jareed, Google it.
It's basically it's slow. That's the point.
Yeah.
But you're right. And that's the whole thing. And I say this on our podcast too, is as we educate and learn and teach ourselves how to move the needle forward and be good allies and et cetera, to me, the most important thing of all that is teaching our kids and the next generation, because at the end of the day, like this stuff is so deep embedded into our history. It's like, it's going to take generations it's going to take generations of parents educating their child about the truth about our country's history, first and foremost, step number one. And then also like the importance behind why we should treat others equally. And I say this on the podcast all the time, but like introducing your kid, if you have a white child, not letting college be the first time they are ever like interacting with other Black kids, like diversify their settings, diversify their surroundings. And then it's like normal, not like they have unconscious, scared, whatever bias because of just the fact that they've never been around anybody that doesn't look like them, Black or whatever. It doesn't even have to be Black.
I was so surprised when we were at school and I realized that majority of that school, that was like the first time them actually being in class with a Black person, hanging out with a Black person. And I'm like, what?
Oh,
the majority of the school.
I mean, something as simple as that
That's
could
crazy.
like move a generation forward. Something as simple as like if every white person right now with a child under the age of 5 or whatever, I don't even care. I'm just saying start them early. Started putting their kids in like diverse situations. Those kids are going to grow up scared of other people who look like them. And half of racism is fear. So I don't know. Again, we're on our soapbox now, Allie.
No, it's so interesting that you bring that up because I went to a college where it was predominantly white, like sheltered Christian kids. Like it was just this, like first time they're out. Yeah, exactly. First time they're out of the house, like they don't experience anything. And then, it's the first time they have been introduced to seeing, other people who don't look like them. So it was
actually like in person and not just on the TV.
And they're like
interacting with them. Yeah.
Yeah. And all you know is what you see on the TV, which the TV portrays us as drug dealers and
whatever they want.
Murderers. Yeah. So it's like, obviously it's a big topic, but
yeah.
We've got a long way to go, but obviously I would just say like having platforms like this and having allies like you and others who want to talk about these things and allow your audience to hear this type of stuff and think through it. Like those are the little things that help and move the needle forward. So, yeah.
Yes. Love that. And just to kind of wrap things up here, let's plug your podcast. Where can we listen to that? Where can we connect with you on social? Plug all the things. Share away.
All the socials.
All the things. Go ahead.
You start. You know how we do it.
All right. Well, we're wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen, you can find us. Done with Adulting. You can go ahead and subscribe to our show and leave us a review once you listen. Let us know, or hit us up on social.
Yes, we are on Twitter, Done WTH Adulting. Also on Instagram, Done with Adulting Pod. Make sure you give us a like, a follow. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us. This was so fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I'm so glad we did it.